get to work. Go on.
I got two different color primers here. One is just white, and then there's this other one, rust. So I'm going to give the whole thing a white pass first to get full coverage, and then I'm going to go with the rust. The reason being, I have a lot of white, but maybe 3/4 or half a can of rust, and I want to get the most out of it I can. Oops, should have washed this one, it's resin. This paint went down a lot heavier than I thought it was going. It could be because this window here is starting to get a little fogged up from months of painting in it. So I couldn't judge based on the spray how well it was going down. So there's a few drips here and there I'll have to take care of. I'm gonna let this dry for a while and skip the white layer next and go for the rusty brown. And that is a very simple, very quick way to do a rust layer. You still get a little of the color shining through if you do it just right. And at this point, once you start scuffing down, you're going to pull all those colors back up. So after this, I'm going to silver. And so far, it's rust layers of paint for this. There's a base silver, rust colors, a few browns, orange. And for the arms, since these were already a step ahead, those are gone to white. If I use these, they're going to go on the outer mohawk, end to end. So for a little last minute work, I shot that with white, and it looks like it's got some pitting on the side. That may work for the weathering, maybe not. We'll have to see. I'll sand it down and so on. Did those arms while I was at it. They're all done and ready to go. Then I did a shortcut on the chin piece. I had forgotten about it. So I put down a quick primer brown rust, then a splatter of yellow on both sides, orange, then the brown, the silver, and then the white, all within like 5-6 minutes total, pretty much back to back. Probably a lot faster than 5 or 6 minutes actually. So I'm going to spray this with another pass of white, and then I got to do the same to the inside of this thing, because both sides will need it. Well, then again, maybe I should keep the inside the bare plastic white, because that will be going against my beard. Let's try and move. Oops, didn't want to do that, but that could add to the overall effect because of all the weathering I need to do coming up. Move you guys out of the way a little. There we go. Yeah, I should probably do the other side anyway. Once it's sealed up, and there won't be an issue. And that damage on the cap there, that may actually work. thinking about keeping that a bare white as is, in which case it's all done. Let me see if I can move the helmet around without fingerprinting it. And the next morning, how do things look? I just took this rag to get rid of all the paint dust that was on top of this. In doing so, I put a few fingerprints in places, even through the gloves, which I did not expect. Or at least, if I made markings, I wouldn't have expected to get fingerprints. So next up, I'm going to hit this with some targeted 100, and then finish it with some 320. And that'll be wet. Obviously there's a lot of little stuff, like all this patchwork in here is the yellow splatter layer from the rust, so all of that's going to come off nice and easy. Deep scratches like this that get sanded over will keep that silver base as long as I mask that off from here. Definitely going to get rid of all the paint drips. And the fingerprints now that they're there, of course, as well. This is 12 hours later. Yesterday I was saying I'd wait 24, but I really wanted to see where it was at, and I knew I was going to hit it with the sandpaper anyway. The other parts, these are ready for weathering. There's a little variation in the white, but overall it's fairly consistent. When I say weathering, I mean stuff like this. Taking a look at all the pieces from the previous night's work. These two are still a little tacky to some degree, and they are malleable, so I'm not touching them for another 12 hours at least. These guys came out good enough. They'll be going to gunmetal next for their final color once the actual prop is decided on. That's just super preliminary work for that one. These two are nice and dry, and I already weathered them up. I thought I was doing it on camera, but it looks like the battery had died, so lost that. But essentially these are just about a consistent white all across. And then for the weathering that I just did, it's just a matter of scraping it along the ground there and seeing what that did, as well as a little sanding, nicking, that sort of thing. And if I dig a little deeper than that, I'll start getting the metal layers that I painted underneath it. I don't want to go too heavy on these simply because as a design, I'm thinking they'd go something like this once this piece goes on. Alright? Or the option is this. I think this is the less obvious one. And then back here, these two match up real nice, right at the base, and just barely come together in the middle. I may use a double-sided tape so that I can take these on and off when I want, if that works, because obviously I wouldn't want to pull it off and ruin the bend of the metal, so if it goes on, then I expect it's going on. From a distance, it'll look more like a pattern. Only when you get close up will you see the different layers going on. And even then, it's not a particularly significant one. My only concern is that because it goes slightly outside the standard, it won't be Legion approved. Oh yeah, this could look pretty cool. Almost looks good as is. with those guys done, they can get out of the way. This, like I said, is sitting, and it may be good as is. All of this damage occurred while it was still primarily wet. When it had flipped over to the side, I was trying to reach and move the things, but as you can see, it tends to tumble. I may have even had it like that and lost it this way. But even then, the paint is so thick on this one, it'll be a while. As to these guys here, they're pretty much all set. They're going to gunmetal next, or whatever the entire piece is painted, so they're basically on hold until the rest of that project gets going. And then over here, I dusted it off and put a few fingerprints in the body. They're actual fingerprints, not just area marks from where I was holding it. It took the full print, which really surprised me. Some of the little things, like the splatter in here, that's the yellow. When that gets sanded away, that'll bring a nice reveal to it. So a lot of the things that are on here are not bad. So like there's a little dip in the paint there, like a scratch that had happened. So as long as I can mask that off, that'll stay. And then I can pull the mask out, and that'll show basically right through the entire paint process. So yeah, this is one area where my model skills are lacking, because I wind up getting such broad amounts of stuff going on in between coats. I don't take the time to wait for a full drying, to do a proper sanding, to do a build-up over several layers. I want to get to the final project, and in that course bring things back from wherever bad places they go. Yeah, so at this point it's just a little sanding. I'm going to be running this little dehumidifier in here to hopefully help dry those guys out. And otherwise, see you in the next one.